Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, everyone, whenever you watch this video. I'm Ismail Mubarak, and undergraduate student of English Education Department at Al State Islamic University of Makassar. And in this video, I would like to do my assignment regarding discourse analysis, in which there are about 7 questions that I will explain here based on those questions. So let's get started. Okay, for the first question, there are 3 perspectives used to explain the reason for the study in discourse analysis. What perspectives are they? Please briefly describe your answer. Okay, here there are 3 perspectives. The first one is academic perspective. The second one is pragmatical perspective, and the third one is pedagogical perspective. Okay, let's talk about it one by one. The first one is academic perspective. Here, if we are talking about academic perspective, it provides essential information regarding discourse analysis as it is integrated into higher education curricula as either a mandatory or even elective subject, highlighting the importance of studying it. So in this case, that if we're talking about academic perspective, it involves that discourse analysis is one of the subjects that learned in a university, either as a mandatory or elective subject. Discourse analysis here represent an interdisciplinary field closely linked with linguistics, sociology, anthropology, psychology, philosophy, communication, and education. Additionally, in academic contexts, the principle of discourse analysis play a crucial role in shaping student comprehension through exploration and investigation. So there is a research by learning about this discourse analysis in the way of academic perspective. And the next one is pragmatical perspective. Understanding discourse analysis is crucial for effectively communicating in a foreign language, in which many people may possess the ability to construct sentences, but yet lack of the proficiency to use them appropriately. So there are 2 important things in the way of learning a language, which is form and function. If we view this in the pragmatical perspective, and in Indonesia particularly, we just focus on the form, and most of teacher forget about the function. But in the fact, these 2 things is very important in dealing with to create a better communication in the foreign language. So, leading, if we just focusing on the form and lack of the function, it will lead us to a potential of failure and conflict of communication. Therefore, 2 essential forms of knowledge, as I have explained before, as I have mentioned before, structural and functional, or form and function, are interconnected in the form of effective communication. Okay, the third one is pedagogical perspective, which discourse analysis correlated with language teaching because it focuses on how to use language in real communication. Then it consists of language education. So if you are talking about discourse analysis in this pedagogical perspective, it really collaborated with the teachers in dealing with teaching language, and discourse analysis as one of the tools that teacher can use to make the students more understanding about the foreign language, about how to use it, and how the appropriate way to communicate it. In a simple way, discourse analysis would help teacher to developing communicative competence of language learner, which not only in the form but also in the function to create in-depth understanding of foreign language. Well, the second question, who should learn discourse analysis and why? Um, the people should learn about discourse analysis is senior learner in English language studies, and the English language education department should receive instruction in the discourse analysis. Why? Because they have already acquired proficiency in language skills and a foundation in linguistics. Language skills that I mean here is the such as listening, speaking, reading, writing, as well as interpreting, also translating, and the foundation of linguistics such as phonetic, phonology, morphology, syntax, and semantic. So additionally, building upon this foundational knowledge will enable learner to comprehend language not only in term its structure but also its practical function. So yeah, that's very important to learn about discourse analysis. But if it's in Indonesia, as I have explained before, that teacher only focus on the form, not the function. So if we are thinking about when the form will be teach to the young learner, or not young learner, I mean for the students, specifically we can start in the high school. Why? Because we can predict that from the elementary school till junior high school, they have already learned the basic knowledge of language, specifically the basic skills, in which make them can understand how to form a sentence well. After that, we can try to make such a basic function in the senior high school to make them understand it well. So we teach it not one by one, but step by step, a little by little, okay? A little by little. And the next question, what should the students do in learning discourse analysis? Well, when studying discourse analysis, students must grasp both the theoretical underpinnings of discourse analysis and engage in practical analysis of specific discourses, in which, um, as a student who learning discourse analysis, the first thing that we have to learn about is that the theoretical concept. After we acquire the theoretical concept in class, then we doing an analysis in which we do the practice directly to do a research regarding discourse analysis, in which throughout this learning journey, learner acquire theoretical concept and then subsequently apply them to analyze various discourse they encounter. So by those hands-on experiences, we can more easier to analyze such a various discourse when we facing such a thing that related to the discourse analysis. So that's why we should learn about discourse analysis. And the next question, what are the advantages of learning discourse analysis? What would the student achieve? So the first one is that to develop a comprehensive understanding and discourse analysis, one will utilize discourse analysis as a roadmap to comprehend the method of analyzing discourse from fundamental concept to practical applications. And the second one to develop students' critical thinking, because Through discourse analysis, the student practices simple model research that would shape the student's critical mindset. Next, to ensure understanding of English usage, learners achieve a comprehensive understanding through discourse analysis in their English interaction. This analysis enables them to tailor their learning to specific English language needs more effectively. And the last, provide an inspiration to teach English stems from the potential of discourse analysis result, which can lead teachers to discover innovative teaching methods that significantly benefit student skill. So, what do students achieve through learning discourse analysis? The students will achieve a more comprehension regarding how to use language in the case of the function. So they don't just know how to form the sentences, but they also know how to use the sentences in their context. Because as we know together that in communication, there's such a thing that we have to trying to enrich the conflict. So by knowing the discourse analysis, we know how to use the language appropriately. Well, next, according to the discourse analysis view, what should be learned and should be taught in a foreign language? So there are two. The first one, in studying foreign language, the learner needs to study it carefully to comprehend in two different dimensions as form and function to use it in a social life. Because if we are talking about foreign language, we're also talking about intercultural communication in the context of discourse analysis. So, talking about this one, we are talking about discourse analysis. We're also talking about intercultural communication because there is such a different way to understand such a sentence. So, by knowing discourse analysis, we know exactly how to use the language well. And the second one is the learner not only learn the language forms such as the pronunciation, vocabulary, as well as the grammar, but also the language function to learn how to convey some typical expression in their context, in which discourse analysis believes that those two knowledge are essential in shaping how to use language appropriately. Well, the next question. In more specific case, what are the advantages of learning discourse analysis according to pragmatic perspective? Well, in a pragmatic perspective, to be more specific, the advantages of learning discourse analysis would have students to use language for communication in appropriate way as the linguistic features of language that use in a real life context, in which if we see in the pragmatical perspective, it will help us to communicate in good way by acknowledge the linguistic feature that we use in communication. Thus, discourse analysis involves students thoroughly to find out how the language should be used in the form of functional base and the basic form knowledge the student have, as well as it also makes the students can explore those two important things in English language. So those two things is very essential in the discourse analysis in which we know the form and also we know the function of the sentences. Or the last question, how to use discourse analysis in pedagogical context. So I have been explained before about pedagogical perspective of discourse analysis, and which is related to the way they teach to teach about a foreign language, in which the teacher have to um, teach the students about form and function, not one of them, but both of them. So the student who have already learned linguistic and language skill must learn discourse analysis. So for the students, such as the third student of English education, for example, they have already learned about linguistic in this first semester, on the first year, and also the second year, as well as the language skills. So they need to learn the discourse analysis, particularly for foreign language education. Furthermore, teacher in teaching language to students commonly use communicative approach. So if we want to use the discourse analysis in pedagogical context, one of the things that more appropriate for the teacher use in class is that communicative approach, in which make the student actively use their knowledge of language. And it shows that the way of the teacher teaching would shape the students' participation in class, as well as the way of the teacher teach the students the function of language would also acknowledge them how to use language in communication appropriately. So maybe that's all my answer regarding the second question of discourse analysis. Thank you very much, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.